Alright, today we're going to build a team around one of my favourite perks in the game, and that is Kiwano. So this is a perk that has been changed recently. I can't remember exactly when it was patched. But the original version, it used to set a snipe to be 10 damage exactly. So even if you did more than 10 damage, it would always it would be reduced to 10. But if you only did 1 damage, it would also be 10. So that meant you could put it on units like Mosquito, or put it on a unit that has 1 mana or 2 mana, and it would suddenly do 10 damage instead. And there were lots of fun things you could do with that, but it was changed because I guess it was considered not really that strong. So now it adds 8 damage. So it still only works once, but that 8 damage boost can be pretty significant. And so we're going to play an Iguana team, and we're going to try and use Kiwano on the same unit more than once. And so I actually face a tree kangaroo here, which makes the Iguana silly, although I think it works out pretty well for us. So yeah, what I'm going to have here is an Iguana at the back with Kiwano, and then since we have Seahorse, that means that there will be a start of battle push, and that will cause the Iguana to use its Kiwano immediately, and then we're going to replenish it during the battle, so hopefully it gets to go off again before the end. Now it's not super reliable, but you know, most of the builds on this channel are not super reliable, so I guess there's nothing new there. But we can also just take Pineapple at the moment, power up the Iguana that way, and Kiwano is tier 5, so we're going to have to wait a few turns before we can get access to it anyway. So here I'm just rolling down looking for a tier 3 that I need for this team to function. We've also got the blue dragon, which is really useful for giving every pet ahead of it a 1 damage mana snipe. So if all of those units have Kiwano as well, they will also do, I think it's 9 damage, because it's 1 damage plus the 8 from the Kiwano. So slightly less than it would have been before, but still incredibly useful. So okay, we get rid of the Seahorse. I think that probably means I'm going to look for Eggplant later on to replace it, because we do need a push to guarantee that the Iguana goes off. Otherwise the Kiwano won't get used up and can't be replenished by the toucan. So we should be alright against this team, I think. It was Pineapple versus Pineapple there. Yeah, they don't have any summons, but the Iguana in the backline is big enough anyway. So next turn we get access to Kiwano. That's why I'm not bothering to put any other perks on the toucan. And toucan itself will be able to snipe with the Kiwano damage as well, because I think its ability goes off before attack. Yeah, you can see it there. It goes off before attack, so it will happen before the feint and before the mana snipe. The Iguana just hangs on there with 1 HP, which allows us to scrape a tie. So we could take Quetzalcoatl here, since we can level up 3 of the units that we have. Yeah, looks like I'm going to take it. And we'll look for Kiwano. Okay, maybe not. We'll take the chocolate. We do have 4 hearts, so we do have a little bit of time, but obviously this team is kind of non-standard, so it's going to struggle once we start facing some of the really strong opponents in the late game. But these ones at the moment are not the greatest. So we don't actually need level 3 toucan, I don't think, because I think ultimately I'm going to play it 3rd or 4th. I forget exactly what this team ends up looking like, because it was recorded way back at the start of March, I think. Yeah, 7th of March, just checking the file name. So this one definitely has been waiting patiently in the queue for a long time. We are going to lose here though, not surprising. So I should have actually frozen the Eggplant as well. We need the Eggplant, like I said, to activate the push at the beginning and cause the Iguana to use the Kiwano. And I think, yeah, we'll take Stego for now. I actually have another build recorded with Stego that I need to do a voiceover for. It's one of those units that I don't normally take, but it is. There are a lot more perks these days that are single use, and so you can definitely get more mileage out of having Stego in a team, even if you have a bunch of perks already. Not that it was a bad unit to begin with, and even though it was slightly nerfed, it's still very strong. So now we've got the Kiwano. We need to change the positioning of the toucan so that the Iguana will get another Kiwano back later on. And then we can just buy mana potions onto the blue dragon itself. It doesn't give itself mana, so having being able to buy the mana allows us to activate the Kiwano that way. So now we get to level 3, and I'm going to realize next turn that I need to change the order. So there we go. Everything behind gets the Kiwano, so each of these snipes is going to be 11 damage. I think we probably would have been okay in this battle anyway, but the damage from those snipes on turn 12 can be pretty devastating. We'll take the mana onto the Iguana as well, say that 10 times fast. Because there could be some tie situations where we get an additional mana snipe from the Iguana if there was no summon afterwards. So, okay, here we go. We rearrange. We get Kappa instead. I've had so many Kappa runs in the last few months. Unfortunately here, we lose one of the Kiwanos because of Baguette. Another really strong one-use perk that you don't really see all that often. And then I'm not sure why I changed the order here. Because now the Stego won't get any mana from the blue dragon. But it's perfect for putting the eggplant on to activate Iguana. So it's going to push that parrot, snipe it for 14 damage with the Kiwano. And when the toucan comes to the front of the team, it's going to pass Kiwano back. There we go, a 14 damage snipe. I think that one actually did matter because, yeah, you can see the Iguana doesn't have enough snipe damage to knock out the level 2 Harpy Eagle summon. But yeah, they just had too many parrots there, so we end up losing. Maybe Iguana with like 3 real Velociraptors would have helped us there, so we keep getting the Kiwano back. I did do a video about that in the past with Warf, but it wasn't particularly effective. And here's another Harpy Eagle, but we actually push it in before battle, which causes one of the summons to be lost. Yeah, mana snipes do a lot of good damage. Yeah, and of course with Kappa, the Iguana snipes back and then reduces the health on the opposing units, so you actually do get pretty good value from that combo. And then finally we're just going to have a quick look at some other rounds from similar games that didn't quite pan out the way I wanted them to. Here's a pretty funny round where Tiger plus PDF removes all the units behind my in the backline, but then the mana snipes actually get us the win anyway. Here's a very big question marks guy. And yeah, you can see again, the Kappa summons 2 units, but will trade 2 for 1 every time because of the Iguana damage. And here's an absolutely huge gold and scaling spam team. This is from a game where I didn't have Kiwano. I think I actually recorded some runs of this where I forgot to put it in the pack. So that was just pineapple in that one. Maybe we would have won if we'd had Kiwano instead of pineapple, I don't know. Luckily here we faced opposing eggplant, but we actually had 2 identical units in the front 2 slots, so the eggplant made no difference whatsoever. You will get to see the damage from the Iguana snipe here, but it would have knocked out the Monty anyway, because it's already level 3. Still nice to see the combo working though. And then another massive team. Behemoth here, plus level 3 Action Chicken, level 2 Cat. Clearly we could improve this team pretty massively if we put Ibex in there, but this was a build where I was deliberately avoiding taking Ibex. And then unfortunately there we ended up getting Toucan from the Kappa. So that spoils the build because now the Toucan replaces the Kiwano with Egg. So yeah, I didn't really think about that one before I started recording, I guess. And then here's another one on 9 wins. We don't end up winning this run, but this is another one where it's an absolutely huge team. They have all pancakes. And I think here the outcome is determined by the mana snipes. Again, the Kappa combo works pretty well. Yeah, I think we just need here a mana snipe to go onto the Bison. And we might have been okay. Maybe it would have been a tie, but yeah, wasn't to be in that particular occasion.